I mentioned something about William Barr. If you go to the New York Times, if you have a subscription to the New York Times, you can search these old papers. And David Johnston, I wonder if that's David K. Johnston, wrote a piece on December 25th, 1992. It was a screaming headline across the entire top of the New York Times, right? The front page headline, all caps, Bush pardons 6 in Iran affair, aborting a Weinberger trial, prosecutor assails cover-up. It's the exact headline. And the article then goes on. It says, Mr. Weinberger was scheduled to stand trial on January 5th on charges he lied to Congress about his knowledge of the arms sales to Iran and efforts by other countries to help underwrite the Nicaraguan rebels, a case that was expected to focus on Mr. Weinberger's private notes that contain references to George Herbert Walker Bush's endorsement of the secret shipments to Iran. You get this? Weinberger was about to rat out the president. The president was still the president. It continues, the story continues. In one remaining facet of the inquiry, the independent prosecutor, Lawrence Walsh, plans to review a 1986 campaign diary kept by Mr. Bush. Mr. Walsh has characterized the president's failure to turn over the diary until now as misconduct. But in a single stroke, Mr. Bush swept away 1 conviction, 3 guilty pleas, and 2 pending cases, virtually decapitating what was left of Mr. Walsh's efforts, which began in 1986. Mr. Walsh bitterly condemned President Bush's action, charging that, quote, the Iran-Contra cover-up, which has continued for more than 6 years, has now been completed. The prosecutor charged that Mr. Weinberger's efforts to hide his notes may have, quote, forestalled impeachment proceedings against President Reagan, and formed part of a pattern of, quote, deception and obstruction. On December 11th, Mr. Walsh said he discovered misconduct in Mr. Bush's failure to turn over what the prosecutor said were the president's own highly relevant contemporaneous notes, despite repeated requests for such documents. As Mr. Walsh said, in light of President Bush's own misconduct, we are gravely concerned about his decision to pardon others who lied to Congress and obstructed official investigations, excuse me. And then this, from the same month, this is from December 11th, 1992. It's an op-ed in the New York Times. It's titled, Mr. Barr's Cloud Growing Darker. By the way, it was William Barr who was Attorney General at the time that George Herbert Walker Bush did those pardons, which ended the special counsel's investigation of Iran-Contra. And this is just a couple of weeks earlier. Could Attorney General William Barr be trusted to produce a credible examination of his own administration's possible criminal aid to Iraq before the Persian Gulf War? The answer is worse than no. Far from allaying public doubts about the Bush administration improprieties, this squalid exercise inflames them. And this is about whether George Herbert Walker Bush was giving chemical weapons and other things like that to Saddam Hussein and calling it, quote, agricultural aid. It was a major scandal, and it got shut down. Again, William Barr, the Attorney General at the time, shut this stuff down with cover-ups and pardons. Expect to see the same if Barr is made Attorney General. It's just that simple.